everybody. Welcome back to the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Today I want to share some very interesting insights and thoughts I have about the Giza pyramids. And I'm here to tell you that I think it's possible that the Giza pyramids were obviously not tombs. I'll explain to you why they weren't tombs. But they were a planetary energetic defense system. Question is, defense from what? I also believe that powerful shamans controlled the Earth's consciousness by meditating and chanting from within the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid. Hello and welcome back. This is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. And this is September 11th. Happy anniversary. So do what you want about that. I've got some new things on the channel that I will be discussing. You can take a look at it here. There's a new website, 923.thunderwizard.com. And later on in the video, I'll explain to you what that's all about. But bear in mind, this channel is about giving you practical tools to shift. And that's exactly what these pyramids were. These pyramids were physical technology combined with water and electromagnetism and consciousness and sound to create an extremely powerful planetary energy defense system. You can do that with your physical body, and you just simply have to know the techniques. So if you're new to the channel, go to the playlists, the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel playlists. That's the my YouTube channel page. And go and click on guided meditations, the interdimensional meditations. You can click on the energy practices, the meditations. If you're really, really serious about shifting yourself, and especially if you want to get out of the funk of the pain and the shame and the self-directed negativity that is created in this current consciousness that we live in, go here to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and everybody who's done that and followed the directions consistently and to the letter, everybody that's come back to me has had massive shifts. And this is really what we're talking about. Instead of waiting for whatever planetary shift to come, you're going to need to take responsibility, and you can do that because your physical body is more powerful than any pyramid. If you know how to use, just simply do simple movements, simple sounds, simple postures, you can create far more conscious energy than anything else that's ever been done or created. Having said that, let's get back to the Giza pyramids were a planetary defense system. And I've got here some notes because I tend to go off on tangents, but one of the things about the Giza pyramids that are not talked about a lot is that there are clear signs of things that science doesn't talk about. For instance, the age of the pyramids. We're led to believe that the pyramids are 4,500 years old. We're led to believe that the pharaoh Khufu or Cheops, that he created this in his lifetime for his tomb. There's zero evidence to back that up, except that there's one inscription in the Great Pyramid, and it just has his name, Khufu. That's it. It's basically just somebody just spray painting his name inside of the pyramid. But the actual science behind it says that the pyramids are far older than 4,500 years. And there is definite signs that the pyramids themselves, that water was flowing through them and underneath them. There's a huge labyrinth of tunnels underneath the pyramids that, if we accept the very likely fact that the pyramids were built far, far before, long before 4,500 years ago, then that means the pyramids were on the Nile itself. And this is nothing new. I'm not coming up with any new discoveries here, but let's see, where did I want to, was it this one? Yeah, so the pyramid complex was more like this than the way it is now. And the pyramids were made out of granite, if I understand correctly. Now, granite is an incredibly powerful stone for shamans. I've known this my whole life. I used to spend a lot of time up in the mountains of the Sierras, the southern Sierras. In fact, the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states is Mount Whitney, which is 14,500 feet above sea level. You can't get any higher unless you go up to, Mount McKinley or something like that. Once you get out of the lower 48, there are higher ones. But in the lower 48, the highest mountain is Mount Whitney. And those mountains are all made out of granite. Just huge, huge, huge blocks of granite. And the way granite is made, just to give you an idea of how huge these mountains used to be. So if that 14,500 foot mountain is really just the guts of the, excuse me, that huge mountain is really just the inner guts of the lava flow. Now, when lava takes a really long time to cool underneath the ground, it turns into granite. So imagine if it's 14,500 feet, and that's just what's left of the lava plug. You can get an idea of how enormous these volcanoes once were. But granite creates incredible power. Quartz crystals are basically granite. Granite is made of quartz crystals. And as you know, quartz crystals can be used to power things. Our pineal gland, as it turns out, doesn't have quartz in it, but it's made up of crystals that have properties that when they move around, they create energy. They create an electromagnetic field. So they chose this material for a very important reason. Now, when you have things like water moving underneath this, if you've figured out some way to use the natural movement of water, that in and of itself is potentially going to create some electromagnetic fields. But the King's Chamber is a very interesting phenomenon. Now, we don't know what it was. The King's Chamber inside the Great Pyramid, you have to crawl through this little passageway, and then there's just this room in there. It's not that big of a room, and people call it a sarcophagus, but there's a big granite, looks like a coffin, and we don't know what it was because it's been damaged. So whoever went in there, to try and steal whatever, they damaged it. We don't know what it was. But people have been sleeping in it, and people who sleep in the King's Chamber almost always have a very intense experience. I believe that Alexander the Great slept in the King's Chamber. Napoleon slept in the King's Chamber, and he came out the next morning white-faced and frightened out of his gourd. Something happened during the night that scared the crap out of him. And when people asked him about it, he said, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me." But he went on. It was after he spent the night in the King's Chamber that he went on to, create his empire. Something happened that empowered him to do all kinds of things, and he was a lot more. His success, of course, he didn't stay successful for very long, but his success increased significantly after doing that. a lot of people go in there and there's a specific frequency in the King's Chamber that it resonates. So however it was constructed, I mean, the mathematical precision of the construction of just the King's Chamber inside the Great Pyramid, it ends up resonating at 117 hertz. And if you either chant or, play a recording of that sound, what happens is people say that it starts to vibrate, starts to act like an engine, starts to go, and you can hear and feel it turning into something very powerful. And 117 hertz is an octave of the solfeggio frequency of 936. And this is used for spiritual evolution. It's the sound of the crown chakra. People focus on this to achieve awakening and awareness. 117 hertz, however, has a very interesting effect on people. Now, if you remember my previous video, I talked about this 3D world is based on shame. Everything that we do, the introject inside the mind of the human being in the third dimension, is based on shame. Everything, even if we take out all of the conspiracy theories and the tinfoil hat stuff, if we take all of that out, we can all agree that we live in a society that is based on debt. You cannot function in this world without incurring debt. The whole banking system, just for example, the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. The United States as a country has zero money, zero. And what ends up happening is, and has happened, is that an independent bank, which means it's not owned by the United States, it's owned by private people. It's a privately held bank called the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States. This is very wealthy bankers who lend money to the United States. They print, so all the money, if you notice, your dollar bills say Federal Reserve note. It doesn't say property of the United States, it says Federal Reserve of the United States. And so when they print out a dollar, they give that to the United States government. It already has interest attached to it. So there's already, every single dollar bill that's printed out already has debt that the United States government must pay back. Now, you're taxed. So your money already has a tax on it. And then whatever money you earn from the sweat of your own brow, that money already has a tax on it, but then you're taxed again, and you give that tax to whom? Not to the government, to the Federal Reserve. The IRS is not the government. It's the Federal Reserve Bank. It's an independent bank. So from the moment that you enter into society, that's just the United States, but it's true for all over the world. The moment that you choose to enter society, you are already a debt slave. You are a slave to debt. You will never get out from underneath that. That is shame. Everything about this world is based on shame. The frequency of 117 hertz is reported to give people feelings of self-love and empowerment. It is a way of healing yourself from that shame. So what does that mean? It means that this planetary defense system was a defense system which went through the aura of Mother Earth to free human beings from the frequency of shame, guilt, devaluation, self-hatred, doubt, isolation. Now, something happened. Something happened in the pyramids show this very clearly. There's signs of water. There's water marks all over inside the pyramids. So somehow water got inside all through the pyramids. What that means, I'm not exactly sure. But there's also signs of tremendous cataclysm. There's burn marks. There's signs of fire raging through the whole thing. And there's signs of cracks from the inside. So what do I think happened? Let me tell you before I get into that, what the reason why I'm thinking about this is because ever since I've been interacting with my higher dimensional friends, I have been exploring, ever since I started the interdimensional meditation practices, which you can go on my channel and you can do the free stuff, or you can do the stuff at the 90-day challenge where I give you even higher versions of the interdimensional meditation. I've been experimenting with all kinds of different energy transmissions, myself transmitting energy in different dimensions. And one of the things that I started doing at the instruction of ETs is I started going into my fantasy of the fifth dimension. And in there, I started creating my own perfect world, which they tell you to do. Go meditate in the quantum field about your perfect reality. So I imagine myself going into the fifth dimension, and I'm creating my perfect world. And what started happening in that is I found myself being, I don't know how to put it, energetically led to start creating these structures from which I would sit in and I would meditate. And when in my meditations, when I create these structures and then I go sit in them and then I meditate and I send energy out into the world, the energy that goes through me increases exponentially. And I just kept doing it. My thing is I just follow the energy. At first doing interdimensional meditations, ETs show up and they give you energy transmissions, they give you teachings, they blow your mind, they take you to other dimensions, all that stuff. You see people from, people who've passed away, you see past versions of yourself, you see, all that stuff. Maybe you haven't done that. I talk about it in my books. You can get it at michaelwilliamdenny.com. Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, Interdimensional Revolution. I talk about all that. After I've been through that completely mind-blowing shamanic initiation, I then felt encouraged because they backed off. They backed off because for a while they were showing up every day, coming into my room, doing energy work on me, doing all kinds of crazy stuff to me. I was freaking out. And then they backed off. And then what ended up happening is that I felt encouraged to just go and explore higher dimensions myself, which is what I've been doing. And so for me, wherever the energy goes, if I'm not interacting with a being or an entity, I just travel as I'm meditating to different places and experience different worlds. Lots of times they will show me a world or a dimension and they'll say, you can come back here whenever you want. So on those days when I do interdimensional meditation and there isn't anybody out there that has a message for me or wants to talk to me, I just go exploring. And I explore in these places that they've already shown me. You can come back here whenever you want. And you can get, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of things that you can accomplish. And when I go to places and I get a strong energetic feedback from it, I know that that works. And I just, through trial and error, what doesn't work I get rid of, and what does work I keep doing. And what has continued to work for me over and over again is going into my fifth dimensional little world that I'm creating, and I go into those structures and I meditate and I transmit energy out of my third eye into the structures that I've created specifically to create more energy. And the energy that comes back is very powerful. And where that took me was an awareness that in the fifth dimension there's going to be I don't know how many of these structures, but there's going to be structures where shamans, their job will be to go and sit and meditate and use their powers of meditation to connect with energy portals, because these structures should be created on energy portals, where you get the power of Earth and you get the power of other dimensions and all that kind of stuff. And to then, you need to have some kind of a channel. So for instance, if you go into the Giza pyramids king's chamber and you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen. There are people that have gone in there and had very negative experiences. But a lot of people spend the night in those chambers and they chant and they sing and they pray and they meditate and they have very powerful experiences. And in fact, as I said, the chamber itself vibrates at 117 hertz, and if you chant at that, it'll start to vibrate and sound like an engine. You can feel the thing moving around. And of course, this has to do at 117 hertz. What this has to do with is vibrating the pineal gland at a frequency where you are connected to your divinity, to your infinity, as opposed to the false limitation of self-devaluation and debt slavery that is being given. So as I said, there's signs within the Great Pyramid that there was some cataclysm, some really destructive cataclysm that is, I think broken, might have broken whatever it was. And what I believe, and I didn't make this up, but what I believe is that the pyramids were on the Nile for a reason, and that the water that was flowing underneath the pyramids, combining with whatever consciousness the priests were using at the time, this was keeping the world in the Satya Yuga mindset. So if you know anything about the yugas, there was a time period very long time ago. By the way, the yuga system that you hear about, where people say, the Kali Yuga lasts for 45 million years, that is a complete misunderstanding of the yugas. The yugas are, I think, 23,000 years. They're not bigger than that. I mean, it's ridiculous to start talking about, 500 billion years ago. That is a misunderstanding, because the people who were trying to understand the Yuga system were in fact living in Kali Yuga, the time of darkness. The time of darkness ended actually around 1700, the Enlightenment, when people started coming out of the Dark Ages. In fact, the exact middle of the Dark Ages, the European Dark Ages, the exact middle of that happens to be the exact middle of Kali Yuga. So that was the rise of Christianity, the rise of Islam, the rise of things, like the, going and conquering people, taking away their shamanic understanding, flailing people alive, burning them alive for, having their own beliefs. This was all happening during the depths of Kali Yuga. We came out of Kali Yuga and we entered into what is called Dwapara Yuga around 1700, and we are still in Dwapara Yuga now. Sorry, it's raining outside. And so as human beings were coming out of Satya Yuga, where they lived in spirit, where they lived in connection to their soul, where there was, I believe, open interaction with higher dimensional beings, extraterrestrial. I think extraterrestrials were working hand in hand with humans to create things like the pyramids. And they knew that this age of enlightenment that they were living in was coming to an end. I don't know if you can hear me or not. but this age of enlightenment was coming to an end, and they were trying to prevent Kali Yuga from coming to Earth. So I believe that's what the pyramids were all about. And unfortunately, they weren't able to stave it off. It wasn't something that was meant to be. They couldn't pull it off. And I think that there was some kind of cataclysm. I also think it's possible that because of the amount of power that somebody could have, I mean, imagine if you weren't a very spiritual person, but you lived in a time where you saw, you could go out of your tent and you could see this happen. And the power that the priests must have had to be able to go into the king's chamber and chant or meditate and to create this field around the earth that actually influenced people's consciousness, kept them in a state of awareness. But now that this age of enlightenment is coming to an end, you start to have people who are becoming more and more greedy. They're operating from their lower animal state and wanting to have control over people and creating the idea of money and debt and slavery and all of that. So imagine if somebody decides that they're gonna go do that. So they forcibly take over the pyramids. They go sit in the king's chamber, and instead of doing the proper chants and mantras that free people, they start imagining what we have going on now. They start meditating and using this technology to control people, to psychopathically devalue them and control them, to bring fear. That, to me, I believe, if you vibrate at the wrong frequency inside of those pyramids, I believe that it would have caused, that technology to self-destruct. And so you see all the signs of fire, all the signs of flooding. I think all of that was a result of people's consciousness shifting into a lower state. Some other things that you should know, just to give you an idea. So the Sphinx, the Sphinx as you know it, right? Look at that. First off, tell me that that's only 4,500 years old. It's obvious that just from the weathering of that, the water weathering of that is far older than 4,500 years old. And look at the head, how the head is so out of balance with the rest of it. It's so much smaller. And the reason for that is because the Sphinx was never, that was not what it originally was. The Sphinx was a lion. And I don't know, I imagine that lion probably had a big mane on it. But this has to do with the constellation of Leo. Leo has to do with spiritual rulership. So the true king is seen as a lion. And so the star constellation of Leo is very important. So the question is, when was that lion aligned with the constellation of Leo? And when was these pyramids aligned to Orion and Sirius and all of the other star constellations that we knew were very important? All of the air holes in the pyramid actually line up to certain stars. So in order to get all of those stars lined up, to have the Leo constellation and have Sirius and have Orion and all these other constellations line up in such a way where they align with the pyramids, you end up going back not 4,500 years, you end up going back tens of thousands of years. And so somebody came to the conclusion, and I have, I'm not expert enough to know, but somebody came to the conclusion that the Sphinx is actually about 38,000 years old. Because look at that. That's what it would have looked like. Again, it's made out of, I don't even know what stones that's made out of. But to look at it then and to look at it now. And you can tell by look at the paws. Look at how huge the paws are compared to the tiny little head. And you can see that the paws themselves don't have the same weathering as the other rocks on there. Now, I'm not a geologist. Maybe there's some geology hoo-ha I don't know about. But just looking at it, it looks to me like the paws had already been buried for thousands of years. And then there was some kind of flood or cataclysm, which would have happened after the ice ages. Definitely the ice ages would have brought flooding everywhere. I mean, the Nile would have definitely, absolutely flooded. We know, way back in the 1800s, I believe, way back in the 1800s, the Sphinx was buried all the way up to its neck. So all the rest of its body you couldn't see. There was just the head sticking out of the sand. But when you look at it, you can see that obviously was put on later. That some pharaoh 4,000 years ago decided to put his face on there, not having any clue that this was having to do with astrology, having to do with lining up with the different star constellations, which to me also lines up, Orion and Sirius. Just to let you know, I've communicated with beings who identify themselves as coming from the star Sirius. In fact, one being came to me, and I don't remember what the lesson was. There's always some lesson. They're teaching me something about something having to do with myself and awakening myself and empowering myself. And the being said that he was from Sirius B Red. I'm like, Sirius B Red? What the hell does that mean? So I went and looked up what is the color of Sirius. And the color of Sirius is not red. And then I looked at Sirius B, if I'm remembering correctly. Sirius B is a smaller star that can't be seen, and it is not red either. They're both like white blue stars, and it turns out to be, one of these two orbiting stars. I forget, is that a quasar? What the hell do they call that? Where the stars orbit each other. But it turns out that the smaller one, B, used to be a much bigger star, and it went nova. And when it went nova, it was red. And the Egyptians, the Greeks, even Europeans in the Middle Ages knew of that big red star called Sirius, which is now, it has collapsed because it went through a supernova, and now it's collapsed into this, white dwarf. So, there's something about all these things. There are civilizations associated with these different stars and star constellations, and I found it very interesting that being told me that he was from Sirius B Red. For all I know, he could have come from a different time. He could have been talking to me from the past. I have no idea. But there's no way I would have known that. There's no way I would have known that star, that white dwarf, was once a big giant red star. There's no way I would have known that. I didn't know that. I only found that out because I wanted to find out. I was trying to prove to myself that I was making it up. And when I looked at that, I went, holy crap, I'm not making this stuff up. So it tells me that these civilizations had a connection with the Leo constellation people, with the Orion constellation people, with all of that. And then you can see how it degrades into this narcissism where some king takes this lion head and defaces it and destroys it and puts his own head on there. And his head is twice as small as the rest of the body of this Sphinx. So I think what we're talking about here is we're looking at the remnants of a civilization going way back into what we would call Satya Yuga, tens of thousands of years ago. And it's a warning. The pyramids are a warning because they couldn't stave off Kali Yuga. They couldn't stave it off. And just trying to stave it off sort of created its own cataclysm. And it makes you wonder, what's going on in the recesses of Skull Island I say that because there's somebody I know when I talk about this, and he goes, "So where are all these deep state people? Are they meeting on Skull Island?" He makes fun of me that way, but yeah, they're somewhere. They're gathering somewhere, and it's hard not to imagine that there isn't some kind of technology that's being used. Now that we know about HARP, H-A-R-P, now that we know about what has obviously happened in Maui, which I've talked about on my Rumble channel. These people aren't stupid. These people are smart, and they're probably the descendants of the people who destroyed the pyramids. I believe that that there's been a group of people who've had knowledge and technologies that they've been using. I mean, the Looking Glass project, as I understand it, is an adaptation of a mirror technology that was used by the Sumerians. That sounds really stupid until you know what a cozy rev mirror is. If you haven't heard about a cozy rev mirror, please feel free to go look it up. Cozy Rev Mirror. I'm spelling it for you if you can't see it. It's K-O-Z-Y-R-E-V. Cozy Rev Mirror. Go look it up. And so we're just talking about the technology is really quite simple, but it doesn't mean you can't expand on it. And these people have had this from the beginning of the fall from Satya Yuga. And it's made its way through every, what is the basis of all empires? Money. We could say it's military, but even the military that is carrying out these attacks on human beings, conquering people, forcing their religion, forcing their society on people. What is that? There's only one reason to do that, and that is so that you can initiate the concept of money. Money is what it's all about. The debt system, the slavery system is what it's all about. Jeff Bezos, if you go to his channel, I'm not speaking out of turn, you can go to his YouTube channel and he will tell you that he wants to put 1 trillion people into space. Go watch it. You don't believe me? Go look up Jeff Bezos' YouTube channel. He'll tell you. He's got a team of scientists there that want to put 1 trillion people into space. There's not even 1 trillion people on the planet. And of course, he would house you. So what does that mean? It means you're going to have to pay him. He says he wants to go into space for one reason only. Because you need energy, he says. You need energy to run your computers, your tablets, your phones. I shit you not. This is what he says. And we can't get these resources out of Earth anymore because we're destroying Earth with global warming. So we need to go out into space. And we need to get these resources to power your laptop, your computer, your television. We need to get resources from other places. And I want you to come and live on my space station and work in my factories. I shit you not. He's dead serious about this. This is not a secret. It's all about money. All of it. And everything that I just told you that Jeff Bezos says becomes absolutely meaningless when you understand that we already have the technology for free energy. We have the technology where you never need to get electricity from somebody. You never need to get heating or cooling from somebody. You never need to get petroleum for your car. We have the technology that everybody can create out of thin air everything they need. There's never going to be any poverty or starvation or illness. All that stuff, we already in the third dimension, we already have that. But we have people who don't want that, because if you're free, these narcissistic people can't tolerate living within their own skin. They can only tolerate, having people that they can manipulate and control. And so the only way to do that is by doing it through your mind. And give me a second. What is money? What is this? This is an Australian 50-cent piece. That's what it says here. This is an Australian 50-cent piece. Now, I can't do anything with this. I can't eat it. I can't wear it. I can't wipe my ass with it. I can't burn it. I can't do anything with it. It's absolutely worthless to me. Unless you have something, you're going to give me these vitamins in exchange for this. You give me something real that I can put into my body that will feed me, clothe me, do something like that. And in exchange, I give you this concept. It's a mental concept. I'm not giving you anything. You can't do anything with this, but you think it means something. And the only reason you think it means something is because you and I both agree that this is worth 50 cents. We have to decide what 50 cents is, but it's absolutely nothing. But this is what's controlling everybody. This is what's turning you into a slave. This is why there has been no free people on the planet for thousands of years. Every time that modern civilization conquers some shamanic people and turns them, brings them into the fold, they have to start using this. And your value is based on how much of this you have. And again, this is going to be worthless even in our economy soon, because our governments are working towards centralized digital currency, which is what? Nothing. Please, somebody show me with your hands, put into my hands digital currency. You can't do it. It's ones and zeros on a computer bank. And that controls your life. If you don't have that, you can't have a home, you can't eat. Jeff Bezos has the answer to that. You're going to go live on his space station, and you're going to work in his factory, or you're going to be mining for something on the moon or on Mars, so that then he'll allow you to live on his space station, and then you can pay him so that you can then run your computer. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. That is the mindset that we live in. And if you think about how crazy that is, it's living in a complete, total delusion based on devaluation, based on devaluing your essence. It would not surprise me at all if there wasn't somebody sitting behind a computer sending out some kind of frequency that, keeps people in this lunacy. But even if it's not done electronically, it's done through the collective consciousness of the human race. Every time that you worry about money, every time you worry about that, you start vibrating on that level. I've noticed this when I've gone backpacking, especially in the Sierras. And I would come down to about 5,000 feet, and I'd hit this wall of what felt like, just emotional craziness. And I would, all of a sudden, I'd hit that wall, and sometimes I'd weep, because I'd be up in this blissful place surrounded by all of this, energy coming off of these giant, quartz crystals we call mountains, and feeling free and connected to my soul and connected to the universe. And then I'd hit at about 5,000 feet, I hit that invisible wall of emotional garbage, and I would weep. And then I would worry about money all the way as I drove home. I'd be worried about money, about what I was going to do, blah, blah, blah. So it's time to move beyond all that. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts. Let me look at my notes, see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk about here. Yeah, so I think what's important is, again, I believe that in 5D, whenever that comes, if it's already here and we haven't shifted over yet, there's going to be an equivalent to this. There's going to be structures, and there's going to be shamans and priests whose job is to just simply meditate at certain vibrational frequencies, which will create, I believe, this earth aura that we we must have had a long time ago. We'll create this earth aura that will allow people to operate from their infinity as opposed to operating from their devaluation. And I find it very interesting that 117 hertz is associated with the feelings of self-empowerment, of self-love, of awakening to your spirituality. I also find it very interesting that 117 hertz is a solfeggio octave of 936 hertz, which has associations with opening your crown chakra. So it makes me wonder, is there going to be something? Is the huar breath that was given to me? I would be interested to know what the frequency of that is. I have no idea. The hul breath, just the om, what could we accomplish if we had technology like the pyramids where we could go and meditate and chant? And what could we accomplish with the earth, especially if we had the earth herself and we had water, the power of water flowing underneath that, working with giant crystals, because that's all the pyramids are. They're giant quartz crystals, basically. All right. So that's my thought about that. So before we get into anything else, just give me a second here. Look, I don't know I don't know when this flash is coming. I don't know when the shift is coming. But I believe that it's time for me to release all of my teachings to whoever wants it. So I'm working to make this more available to people. So I've got a video here. I'll just tell you about it. Hello, everyone. I'm here to announce the 923.thunderwizard.com video sale. According to the internet, the world is going to either blow up or shift to 5D, or there's going to be a solar flash, or the earth is going to split into two, or the rapture is going to come on September 23rd of 2023. And in honor of that, I am getting rid of all of my teachings to you, making sure that you have access to them. So I'm selling every single one of my videos in a package for only $239. So recently I did the solar flash package, which used to be the lockdown package, if you remember that. That has almost all of my video teachings and packages and certifications. So I've decided to even add all of the things that I didn't add before. So we are going to be giving away all of those videos, plus the 5-element Maoshan videos, plus healing certification video, and I think one more that I can't remember. But I mean, if you look at that, all of the video packages that I have, and if you were to buy each one of them individually at their original prices, it would have cost $5,000. So this one I'm giving to you for $239, not $923, because that would be too expensive. $239. Listen, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if the world is going to end or not, if the 5D is going to come, if the rapture is going to come. I don't know if any of that stuff is going to happen. I've been given those kinds of messages from higher dimensional beings, not just me, but a lot of people have been getting those kinds of messages. I don't have an exact date, but it feels like it's going to happen very soon, but I could be wrong. And in any case, it is my desire to make sure that all of my teachings get out to the world and that people have access to them, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this kind of work. So go up here to 923.thunderwizard.com and you'll see that you have access to all of my video teachings, including the Maoshan 5 elements, including celestial qigong, including how to escape the matrix, including Vedic astrological certification, both versions 1 and 2, or levels 1 and 2, plus rune certification, plus finding your own perfect career and how to teach that to people, plus a distance healing course where you can become a distance healer and make livings doing all those things. As I said, each one of those videos by themselves is worth more than $239, and the whole thing would have to be $5,000 at least. So you get it for $239. Go to 923.thunderwizard.com before it's too late. If the world doesn't end in the next few weeks, I will get rid of this and we'll go back to doing things as we did before. But in any case, it's an opportunity for those of you, if you couldn't afford it or you've been waiting around to get your hands on some of these things you've been saving up. Now's the time. $239. Go to 923.thunderwizard.com. Every single video teaching, certification, stuff that I was selling, I am getting rid of all of it. It all must go. 923.thunderwizard.com. Thanks. Alrighty. So I got got that out of the way. So I do want to reiterate let me just give you a little bit about what's happening with me. Actually, this concept really excites me. I find this incredibly exciting. And I'm really looking forward to that. Since I've already found myself, without realizing it, imagining and meditating for that very scenario and imagining myself doing that. I want 5D to come just so I can do that, because that would be a blast to be able to tap into that kind of energy and be able to give back to Mother Earth in that way. But just to give you a little update on me, for the past 4 weeks, things have been very quiet, and it's gotten me a little worried on the energetic front. I haven't had any real communications directly from ETs. I've still continue to have experiences in meditation with entities and deities and things like that, but that's a whole different vibe. But I haven't heard a lot from ETs, and it hasn't been this quiet for a really long time. And it's a strange feeling, and maybe you're feeling the same thing, where, when we're having the solar storms, which, as you know, the solar storms weaken the electromagnetic field of the Earth. And when that happens, I feel a huge connection, and my meditations go through the roof. And ETs are all over the place. And the reason for that is because the electromagnetic field actually is a barrier between us and higher dimensions. So this is why when solar storms happen, not only do people freak out, but people have a lot of spiritual experiences. Because you can access higher dimensions when the Earth's electromagnetic field is weaker. And of course, solar energy is spirit energy. So you have the combination of increased solar energy with diminished electromagnetic field around the Earth. You have greater spiritual experiences. And every time that there's been in history, just for example, when the Neanderthals disappeared, assuming that's what happened. For all I know, there's an Earth where Neanderthals still exist, for all I know. But when Neanderthals disappeared from the fossil record, it happened when we had this exact scenario going on, where there was a solar maximum with increased solar storms and radiation hitting the Earth, combined with an incursion event, which is the electromagnetic field of the Earth is shifting, and as a result is much weaker. And the combination of those two things is exactly when the Neanderthals disappeared. And even scientists are saying the increased solar radiation changed the DNA. So for whatever reason, they went sterile and weren't able to reproduce anymore, something like that. But if we understand that the universe has consciousness, then that was a conscious decision. The universe had said, okay, the experiment which had been going on for 400,000 years, I believe. 400,000 years, the Neanderthals walked the planet, and then one day they were gone. And nobody knows why. All the theories about them being absorbed by humans, being wiped out by humans, there's no evidence for any of that. They just disappeared off the record. And it happened to be during one of this exact event we have going on right now. And so this quiet period for me has been disconcerting, because what ends up happening is that I start going back and feeling like I'm getting pulled back into the old, what is that word? Hypnosis. I get pulled back into the old 3D hypnosis, and I start wondering, what was all that stuff? I mean, all these books I wrote, and well, what the heck was that? Did I make that up? What was going on? And it's a horrible feeling. And that combined with the awareness that, and yet, COVID happened, the lockdowns happened, Maui has happened, 9/11 happened. Happy anniversary, by the way. All those things did happen. So that didn't go away. There's still a lot of really sad, horrible things going on this planet. And it makes you not want to live here. When you know, the more you know about what's going on, it makes you not want to live here anymore. So I made this video really for myself, to empower myself and remind myself of what it is that we're working towards. And as I'm sitting here, I'm getting energy flowing through me as I say that, to focus on going forward, focusing on the future, focusing on this new reality. And so I encourage you to increase your meditations, increase your energy work, and increase your meditations on the reality that you want to create. And don't hold back. Go into a fantasy world and imagine the most beautiful, unrealistic world you can. For me, that's living in a world where I get to go into some structure like the pyramids, and I get to meditate, and then the forces of heaven and earth flow through my entire body and create this blissful energy aura that surrounds the earth. That's, that and surfing. I have to have some time to do some surfing. But that is really all I care about. And that's what I'm focusing on for myself going forward. It's very likely that more less than savory things are going to happen on the earth. People have been saying that 9/23, not just people, but Hollywood has been saying in, I don't even know how many movies, that September 23rd is going to be the end of the world. They've been saying that for decades. It's one of those Easter eggs in movies. And, so I have no idea if something's going to happen on 9/23. Vedic astrology says that there's going to be some pretty devastating event around 9/22, 23, 24 that could spell the end of the United States, or at the very least the collapse of the United States economy. There might be more stuff on the way. So the solution to that is to not let that affect us, but to focus on creating this, because it's our intentions that are going to create it, as I understand it. All right, so as you know, I don't take any questions unless you are subscribed here, and I recognize you. Subscribe to the 90-day challenge or above at thunderwizard.com. If you're subscribed to that and I recognize you, I will answer your questions. And I do see here one from Halsey. He says, question, how do we daily reconcile the collapse of 3D with coming into 5D? I think I just answered that. You say, struggling fundamentally with 5D ideas and current 3D future planning feels a waste of time to act on or plan anything now. Yeah, I kind of just shared that same feeling. this is what we're talking about here, Halsey, is called cognitive dissonance. That's cognitive dissonance. And, I'm in a state of cognitive dissonance. Because, as I said, the solar storms have weakened considerably at the moment, and my ET friends are off doing something. They're busy doing, I don't know what they're doing. So I'm not getting shifted up, to that higher dimension on a daily basis like I was, even though I do my meditations, and that helps a lot. And I still can feel myself connected to them. There's not a lot of energy hitting me that shifts me out of that, where I know for a fact, no, that old 3D hypnosis kicks in. And so that's when I go back to being practical. 9/11 happened, COVID happened, all those things that were impossible that I talk about on the Rumble channel, all that stuff happened. The Maui fires happened. Just for one example, I don't know how many hundreds of billions of dollars are being funneled to Ukraine. And the people in Maui who were funneled into the fire by the cops who blocked off the streets, and the people who survived, who lost their houses, got $700. that's just so 1984. That is dystopian. You think about that. All of your tax dollars, hundreds of billions of your tax dollars, are going to fight a war in Ukraine. And the people, the actual United States citizens, aren't getting anything from anybody. It's from the government. It's just crazy. What kind of world is that? So that creates some cognitive dissonance. So this is why it's important to, people, a Christian would say, have faith. It's important to remember, for me, to remember what I've experienced. And the experiences that I've had, which I've written in my books, which you can read, those happened. I have on video. I have video evidence proving that I had interactions with higher dimensional beings. But now that the things have slowed down and that old hypnosis, 3D hypnosis comes back, I have to pull myself out of that cognitive dissonance and remember what I know to be true. And it is true that every time I focus on following my soul, every time I do that, I get happier. And so I have to, I can't rely on any outside things going on. Let's see here. By the way, if you want to know how people are going to intuitively function in the fifth dimension, you can go here. The Shamanic Secret Command and to a Perfect Life. And go there. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life is my book, which you can get at michaelwilliamdenny.com. And if you master what is in that book, in fact, it's a booklet. It's just a tiny little booklet. If you master what's in that book, that is how people are going to intuitively function in the third dimension. All right, so that's it. I don't see anything else here worth responding to. I don't see any questions. All right, that's it for me, guys. So again, if you go onto the channel and go to the playlists, again, if you're watching my channel and you're not doing any work, you're getting almost nothing out of this channel. If all you do is listen to me talk, I got to tell you, I don't even know why you're here. I'm not that entertaining. Go to the playlists, the free playlists, and do the free interdimensional meditation, do the free energy work, do all the stuff that's associated that doesn't cost you a dime. And if you're dead serious about making a shift and tapping into your chakra system, your kundalini system, your chi meridians, and learning how to take control of this reality, to escape the matrix, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. By the way, those videos are not the same as what you get here at 923.thunderwizard.com. Those are two separate things. And again, I'll keep this up for the next couple of weeks. And if the world doesn't fall apart, I'll get rid of that and we'll go back to normal. So go check that out at 923.thunderwizard.com. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys. I wish you all the best. Thank you for showing up. I love you all. And I'll see you all next time. Take care.